Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast with your host, Michael Sapersky, where we take you deep into the world of elite consultants.
Hey, it's Michael Sapersky, and today I'm very excited to have Nicholas Kusmich joining us. Nicholas, welcome.
Michael, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you and to hang with your people.
Good stuff. Listen, so for those that don't know you, Nicholas, give us a brief intro and explain what you do.
Wow, it's a loaded question to ask an entrepreneur, right? Brief intro. I got into the whole entrepreneurship game when I was 17 years old. I witnessed my father had a heart attack actually when I was 4. Him and my mother lost their business due to illness when I was 17. And so I was put in a position to try and figure this whole thing out. At that time, I was, again, longer story short, I was introduced kind of to the internet marketing world and what it meant to use the internet to grow and build a business. One thing led to another. About 6 years ago or so, I stumbled across this platform called Facebook and realized that there could be some potential here. So I kind of dove 2 feet in to figure out Facebook as an advertising platform. And now several years later, we're fortunate enough to have one of the most recognized agencies / consultancies in the business. We get some fantastic results for our clients, and we're able to work with some world changers doing so. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Let's start peeling a little bit of that back. So how did you actually get into consulting? Because as you kind of alluded to there, and from what I know, I mean, you didn't come into this with the typical kind of corporate route. You were actually a pastor first, right?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah. So for 14 years of my life, I was a pastor. I had my own church here in the Toronto area. And I thought that's what I was put on this planet to do. Yet at the side, while that was going on, it was important to me that I didn't take a salary from the church, or I took a very small one. And B, I was able to stay relevant as a pastor to my congregation, meaning, I had a real job and I had to pay real bills and I had to go through real struggles. And so all the while of collecting a very small salary from the church and trying to stay relevant, I needed a side hustle, if you will, to kind of put food on the table, which is what I had to do. And that's what really introduced me to the whole kind of the internet consulting / agency world. And I guess, I don't know, be it the universe or right place at right time or whatnot. I got really good at it. I understood how to help people from a consulting standpoint, also from the agency standpoint. And so when it was time to transition out, it wasn't as drastic of a transition as it might appear to be. I mean, I was doing some of the stuff on the side. It was just shifting, rather than having 20% of my attention there, it was now 80 to 90 to 100% of my attention.
I don't know if I've ever met before someone who's been a pastor and then also run an agency at the same time. Just what was going on, I mean, in your mind, like if you kind of share, because I think a lot of people just feel like they're already overwhelmed with, just trying to build their business or keep things moving forward. But here you are doing 2 very different things, or at least I see them as very different things. Like what was just going on in your mind? How are you managing all that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it had to do with, I don't see that. I'm sure they are different at the surface, but at the same time, to me, I just saw them as supplementary from the fact that at that time, my heart's passion and what I felt to be a calling was to serve my small congregation here in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And the only way for me to do that to the best of my ability was to have a business that could support me to be able to do this without having to worry about, again, paying the bills or taking care of my family or even for that matter, I just didn't want my congregation to think, hey, the money we spend to put towards the church is going towards this guy's lifestyle. I mean, I didn't want that. I wanted to ensure that all the money that was being generated from the church stayed either within the church or went to causes that were worthwhile. So the motivation, if you will, or the ability to do that really, I wish I could say was birthed out of a passion or this great work ethic or any of that. But at the end of the day, it was necessity. I needed to take care of my family and I needed to take care of this congregation. And the only way for me to do that effectively was to have this business on at that time on the side. Mm-hmm. That I could, use to be able to do the rest of it, be a good family man and, take care of my congregation effectively.
Right. Okay. So why Facebook ads? I mean, why not be a digital marketing consultant, an online marketing consultant that can cover, many areas of online marketing? What made you or had you choosing and landing on Facebook ads specifically? How did you get to that place?
It's such a great question because, in fact, I started as a quote-unquote digital marketing consultant.
Yeah.
That was the thing. And then I went to these events and I talked to people, and then everybody and their mother was a digital marketing consultant. I mean, it didn't allow me to stand out at all, for one. And then secondly, again, call it being in the right place at the right time. But I had this experience where I was a quote-unquote digital marketing consultant with experience in Facebook ads. Now, my assumption was that everybody had experience with Facebook ads and everybody was making it work. So I didn't really see it as like a selling point. I just saw it as, hey, that's a tool in everybody's tool belt. But I was particularly at a specific event. And I had I guess you could call it a life-changing experience. I was sitting there in the audience, and the guy got up on stage and said, well, how many people in this room use Facebook ads as part of their growth strategy for their business? And about 70 to 80% of the hands went up, including my own. And the second question he asked was, well, of everybody who's using this, how many people have found Facebook ads to be profitable? And every single hand went down except mine. That's when I had kind of that light bulb moment, and, without lightning striking or without any special hoopla, I made a mental decision sitting right there in that seat at that very moment that no longer would I be a quote unquote digital marketing consultant, but from this point forward, I would now focus my time, attention, and energy on Facebook ads, because I noticed, that I had a skill that could lend well to the industry and the marketplace, and B, it was an apparent need, a need that I didn't recognize until that point. But from that point moving forward, the more people I talked to, the more I realized that A, they weren't on the platform, or B, they were and they weren't finding success. So I was able to very quickly kind of carve my little niche, if you will, in that space. And really kind of elevate through the ranks to where we are today.
So would you say that it was kind of right place, right time, in that maybe you were a little bit ahead of the curve from a technology standpoint, and people might say, well, that's what gave you an advantage? Or would you say that it was just you actually making a decision to invest more energy and resources and focus to a specialization?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think some of it had to do a little bit with dumb luck, but the other part of it is most definitely it was an intentional decision to capitalize on a recognized opportunity. I think anybody can do that if they look out into the marketplace. In fact, this is one of the things we teach now, is that when you look out into your marketplace, I think the two things as any consultant should do is, number one, recognize an underserved segment of your marketplace, and B, potentially an affluent segment of your marketplace. And that's exactly what I did. I looked out in the marketplace and I understood that there was an opportunity here because people couldn't benefit from Facebook ads. But then I said, well, what segment of the marketplace is currently being underserved? And at the time, and because of my quote unquote expertise, I recognized that the thought leader or the information marketer or the service provider was an underserved segment of the marketplace. So I swooped into that marketplace, and I looked for a segment within that was affluent. So people who had great businesses who weren't struggling in their businesses financially per se. And the combination of finding a segment that was underserved and affluent together allowed me to, as the book says, the blue ocean strategy, move into uncontested space, which then allows you to be the key authority in your space. And then from there, we've obviously grown and expanded and moved on from that. But a little bit of dumb luck and a lot of just clear intention of recognizing an opportunity and then applying the skill set and the know-how and the learning and further sharpening the skills to ensure that I stayed kind of in number one place.
And what's a good way then for people to find those underserved markets? Like, people are listening to this going, okay, that makes a lot of sense, Nicholas. Like, I could see that I should be doing that. But how do they actually do it? How does someone go about finding an underserved market? Or in your experience, what's the best way to approach that?
Yeah, it was tricky from explaining how it was done because I lived and eat and breathed this stuff. And so my fingers were clearly on the pulse of the industry, and I recognized that there were the thought leaders because I was at that time trying to be a thought leader. So I knew the space. I knew what people were saying. I knew the pain points. And so it was very easy for me to look into the industry that I was already a part of to understand, hey, that segment right there is currently not having their needs met. At that time, I don't know if you remember this, Michael, the big hoopla when Facebook ads first came out were people selling t-shirts. Everybody was selling t-shirts and making gazillion dollars doing so, and t-shirts this, t-shirts that, and everybody was teaching people how to sell t-shirts. And I'm like, well, I don't know how to sell t-shirts, but I do know that there's this great need amongst people like myself who want to be thought leaders, who want to be, authority figures in their marketplace, who have information and or consulting practices. And so just because I was in it, I lived it, I breathed it, I identified it. I was able to speak the same sort of language. I was able to connect with the pain points and the problems and then provide a very specific solution to them.
Right. So if someone didn't have their finger on the pulse to that degree, what suggestion might you offer them?
I think the only thing, and I don't know what this is worth because I can't speak beyond this, but I have found that most often people who are in the consulting space are consultants because they are in one way, shape, or form either A, scratching their own itch. So there was a solution that they couldn't find or help that they were looking for that they couldn't get the help for. So they moved into that space. Or B, they had a very positive experience of their skill set helping someone in that space and then being able to elevate it. And so I think for the sake of ease, rather than trying to search outside your networks or search outside your own area of expertise, it's to tap into the network, tap into the industry that you're already a part of, and begin to identify, A, are there certain segments that are underserved? And B, if you've already worked with people, one of the things I love to ask is, of all the people you've ever worked with, who have been your absolute best, hands down favorite clients? Put that together on a list and then ask, well, what are the commonalities about them? Is it an industry thing? Is it the size of their business? Is it the type of products or services that they sell? What are the commonalities amongst all the favorite people I've ever worked with? And then simultaneously, what are the commonalities of all the things of the clients that I hated working with? And I think even by starting to draw those distinct lines, you can begin to get a clear idea of who it is that you can serve and who you can serve best. And then, frankly, there's two ways of kind of finding an underserved segment of your marketplace or rising up as a key opinion leader or thought leader in that space. One is to find an actual underserved marketplace, or B is to position what you do in such a way that it is unique from all of your competitors. And that then also makes you a leader in your space without any competition. So even if you have trouble finding a particular underserved segment, I still think there's a way to reposition yourself in such a way where people see you as the only person who does what you do because of how you've kind of talked about it or worded or positioned it.
Yeah, very good. So, there's, these days, there's many Facebook ad consultants. Probably everyone sees ads everywhere for them and, lots of people making claims. You're one of the best in the world from what I've heard and seen. That's why, I want to have you come on here. But sure. How do you go about separating yourself from the pack? Because I think there's many consultants, right? Whether they're in a specific area of management consulting or they're in healthcare consulting or, even the ones that have a clear specialization, there's still competition. And so you're in a market where there's clearly a lot of competition as well, yet your business thrives. So what have you done to continue to allow your business to thrive?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I believe marketing at its core is really nothing more than creating preeminent positioning in your marketplace and then continuing to reinforce that positioning that you already have. Now, how is that so in short, hands down, without any question, I think, bar none, results will speak for themselves. And so if what you're doing is generating true, tangible, measurable, shareable, achievable results, then you have the ability to leverage those experiences to say, hey, this is what I did for so-and-so, and it's what I can do for you. So I think without anything, results is key. But now then, once you have those results, the second thing is, how do it comes down to positioning, in my opinion. How do you position those results to allow what you do to appear to be and is in fact actually in delivery very different from what everybody else does. And I'll tell you what I did, for example. So besides, again, association and affiliations, which I think are key in positioning. So who you associate with or what you associate with and what you are affiliated with is obviously a very key element to borrowed positioning as you're working your way up. But for me, it was this. I would look out in the marketplace and I saw a lot of great Facebook strategists out there, and 99.9999% of them focused on what I would call tactics or technical elements of Facebook ads. So they were really good at teaching someone, this is the button you push in Power Editor to set up an ad, and this is the kind of conversion mechanism you want to choose, and this is how to bid, and this is how to do all that. And look, I'm not taking away from any of that. That is super important, and I could teach that all day long to anyone who's interested. But the reality is, tactics only go so far. So because I noticed that everybody was talking tactically and technically, I decided, and this is what I do best anyways, my skill set was much more on the strategic kind of nuance side of it. And so I learned this lesson from the Beachbody guys in P90X and a concept that David Ogilvy calls the big idea, but I just kind of call it preeminent positioning. And here's it in its context. I'll tell you what Ogilvy taught, and then I'll tell you how I applied it. Ogilvy said there's 3 ways to enter into a marketplace. Number 1, through your promise. And your promise is essentially, hey, I promise to help you accomplish blank. So if you're a consultant on relationships, if you're a consultant on finances, if you're a consultant on human resources and building team, your promise is basically, I will show you how to have a better HR department. I will show you how to hire people better. That's the promise. Not bad. The problem is everybody leads with the promise. Everybody talks about the promise. So it puts you in a red ocean with high competition. Your promise has to somehow be better than the other person's. And frankly, it isn't. The person who says, I will help you lose weight is really no different than the other person who says, I will help you lose weight. The second way you can enter into a marketplace, Ogilvy says, is what he calls positioning. Now, positioning is both your status in the marketplace as well as the position you take in the marketplace. So a great example of that is, someone can be very counter-cultural to the general understandings of the marketplace. And if we're using P90X as an example of this, or Beachbody as an example of this, their big promise could have been, hey, we're going to show you how to lose weight and get ripped. It's what everybody else was saying. Now, their positioning was a little bit interesting in that when everybody at that time was talking about a really easy diet and a really easy workout, these guys came to the scene like, this is a workout for badasses. You've got to work 90 minutes a day every single day for 90 days straight if you want results. So it was kind of a counter positioning, but even that wouldn't have made them the $1 billion company or the $100 million product that P90X was. I believe the third level, and this is what Ogilvy calls the big idea, and I've reframed that and called it the preeminent idea. It's what you throw out into the marketplace that the marketplace can gravitate towards and capture and hold on to that sets you apart from everybody else. So in P90X's case, or Beachbody's case, they had 2 words that were their big idea that revolutionized their marketplace and turned them into a $1 billion business. And the 2 words were muscle confusion. Now, on the surface, what the hell does that even mean? Nothing. But in actuality, the whole thing was everybody knew about muscle memory, and their whole big shtick was, hey, your body's smart and intelligent. If you do the same workout every day, your body's going to catch up to it. It's going to know exactly what you're doing, and all of your progress is going to slow down. So the only way to kind of increase your metabolism and keep it revving all the time is to create muscle confusion. How do we do that? A new workout, a different workout every single day for 90 days straight, and here are the results. And those 2 words, or that phrase, was what revolutionized their business. So I saw that and I said, well, my big promise is I can help you generate more leads and more clients and more customers using Facebook ads. Not very different from everybody else. Now, my positioning was I do this from a strategic standpoint, which is far more effective than just that tactical standpoint, which kind of set me a little bit apart from everybody else. But my preeminent idea was what I call contextual congruence. Now, what does that mean? Absolutely nothing. But what does it mean? absolutely everything. The concept that I put out there was, look, if you want to really make Facebook ads work for your business, you have to be congruent to the context of the platform that you're on. And I built this entire narrative around that, which is true, by the way, but this is what I led with in the marketplace. And all of a sudden, Michael, you'll love this. This is how you know it's working. It's when people come back to you and say, hey, Nick, can you review my ads? I know they're not exactly contextual congruent, but I want you to take a look anyways. They didn't even know what that word meant, but they were speaking back the phraseology that we were throwing back out into the marketplace. And so I think that is where consultants can start to realize, know what your promise is, know what your position is in the marketplace, and hopefully you have maybe like a contrarian positioning or a little bit of a different angle, but most definitely start to get very clear on what it is that is unique to you. What is your preeminent idea that you could lead with in the marketplace, and all of a sudden you are now in a category of one, and that plus results plus affiliations and associations definitely put you leaps above everybody else in your marketplace.
It's a really great example. Thanks for sharing that one, Nick. So your business has been growing, right? And as you continue to kind of work to grow it, what does success mean to you? I mean, what do you keep in mind just on a daily basis in terms of what you're working towards and just staying, happy about what you're doing? Like, what is success to you?
While we work with a lot of seasoned and experienced consultants here at Consulting Success, I'm often contacted by new early stage consultants. Invariably, the question I'm asked is, what are the steps I should take to become a successful consultant and grow my consulting business to my first 6 figures per year? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've opened the doors for our Momentum program. This is our most popular program for early stage consultants, and it has helped almost 1,000 consultants to start, run, and grow successful consulting businesses. It gives you the step-by-step plan to help you with your messaging, your fees, and pricing strategies, how to win more proposals, how to go to market more effectively, developing a marketing system to generate leads consistently, and so much more. And right now, until September the 19th, you can sign up for Momentum and get 50% off the regular price by going to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO. Only 100 spots are available to join Momentum and get 50% off. This deal is only available until September the 19th or until all 100 spots are gone. We won't be opening up new spots in this program for several months, so don't wait. Go to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO.
Yeah, that's such a great question. And that definition has changed over the years, right? So when I first started, success was connected to a dollar amount. Then, and that was probably not right at the time because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I got into the business to build a business that revolved around my lifestyle rather than a lifestyle that revolved around my business. And I think if someone is not careful, you can very easily get those two mixed up. And all of a sudden your business is taking over and the lifestyle that you once wanted and desired to have is completely gone the other way. And now you're just focusing all on this. So when we started, and when I say we, my wife and I, because she's now a partner in the business, it didn't start that way, but it is today. Our first measure of success was dollar amounts. It was the $1 million business, and then it was the $10 million business, and then it was the $50 million business. And as we started to hit those milestones, all of a sudden it's like, wow, well, like, where do you draw an end to that line? I had to take a serious question and take a few steps back, and my wife and I had to ask the question, like, to what end, or when was enough enough? And we had to ask ourselves, why are we really in this? Is it to peacock to our friends? Is it to own all this nice stuff, which once we owned it, all of a sudden wasn't all that nice anymore? What was it? And so we said, well, it had to get back to the lifestyle side. Then we had our first child a year ago, who's just turning about a year old now in August of 2017. And then our definition of success changed even further. So now it wasn't just about lifestyle. It was about being good parents and how can we be home for for our child, and how can we take care of her and provide her the lifestyle that she needs. And now we just found out we're expecting our second. And so all of a sudden that changes a whole nother dynamic. So I think the long and short of it is, we are constantly being reminded of what is important to us, or we have to be intentional about that reminding. And now our definition is simply do we have enough of what we need to A, live the lifestyle that we desire, and B, be the parents that we want to be to our kids? If the answer is yes to that, within perspective, I believe we've achieved success, and now our goal isn't only up and to the right, Isn't just this massive growth trajectory. Derek Sivers says, if it's not, I don't know is there a language issue on this podcast, or can we swear?
Oh, you can say whatever you want. Yeah.
Okay. So Derek Sivers came up with this concept that I find is beautiful, and I'm now able to implement it. And he says, look, if any decision comes across your path or any opportunity comes your path that's not a fuck yeah, then it's got to be a hell no. And for the longest time, that sounds like great, vernacular. But for the longest time, I was saying yes to, yeah, I think that's kind of good because of the potential monetary benefit or the potential status benefit. But now we are truly living in a place, and I think this is our new definition of success, is that we're only doing fuck yeah things in our life and in our business. And that tells me that we're kind of on the path towards where we want to be and where we're going.
So congratulations on upcoming number 2. Very exciting.
Thank you. But nerve-wracking a little bit.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure. So here, I want to dive into that, kind of dig in a little bit deeper, because I remember seeing that you posted about that kind of the decision to not just keep scaling the business bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And I think now with what you're sharing, there's a lot more context to that. But specifically, what changes did you make in your business? I mean, did you go to fewer team members? Did you choose to say no to specific types or sizes of clients? What did you specifically do to if we could call it, optimize your business so that it better aligned with what success means to you and to your wife and to your family? What did that actually look like, and what does it look like today?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is all of the above. And so what that means is, one, and I don't like to say scaling down. That's what I used to call it until I had a conversation with my friend Los. And he's like, actually, I was explaining what I was doing. And he goes, actually, Nick, that's not scaling down. That's netting up. I'm like, oh, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
So I use that term, but I give him credit all the time. And so netting up to me meant a couple of things. Number one, clearly identifying only the clients that we like to work with, whether on the consultancy side or the agency side. And so, our new criteria is not just that you have a great business and you'll pay us a ton of money to do what we do, but would I actually be willing to have dinner with you on one night, or even go on vacation with you? If the answer is yes, and you're that kind of a person, then yeah, you're a hell yes, and we'll have business together. If not, then Joe Polish says life is too short to work with assholes. And I don't mean that to be offensive, but there are people that I've worked with who are assholes, and it just wasn't fun. So that's one thing. It's being clear on who the clients we are. Secondly, it was increasing our prices, frankly. Everybody, I believe, especially when you're starting out, goes through this kind of mental shift of am I worth charging these X number of dollars? Yeah. And you get there and you raise your fees a little bit. I'm not saying arbitrarily raise your fees for the sake of raising them, but I'm saying raising them to create the business and the lifestyle and the clients that you really want to work with. So the other aspect was, yes, reducing the number of clients, but also B, increasing our costs. C, on a very practical standpoint, was to let go of all of our full-time staff. So we carried staff and we built our agency up to a decent amount at some point. And then all of a sudden, I felt the burden of being now a CEO, if you will, or a manager, and being responsible for all of these people. And B, I don't have what it takes to be a CEO. It's not in my DNA. I'm not an entrepreneur in that sense. And so we had to let go of all of our full-time staff, which meant we identified key responsibilities and key roles and key gaps in our business. And we put contractors in place for that. So people who are really good at what they did. We weren't their only clients in most cases. But hiring contractors to fill those gaps was a huge burden off our shoulders. Third, fourth, fifthly, putting SOPs in place. Now, as boring as and unsexy as that sounds, when I first started as an entrepreneur, I was literally flying by the seat of my pants. I was like, oh, let's do this and let's do this. And there were no real key standard operating procedures to how to onboard a client and how to take care of that client and then what to do with them and how to, all of that stuff. None of that existed. And so we invested with working with someone to come into our business, analyze the entire thing, work with us that way, and then develop standard operating procedures for everything. So all of a sudden, as much as we could either automate or optimize or delegate became automate, optimize, and delegate. And then lastly, I think it's just being really key on and intentional about the rules that we set for ourselves. And so what I mean by that is, what hours are we going to work and what hours are we not? And I'm not saying being lazy. I'm just saying being clear about this is on time, this is off time. Do we work on the weekends? Do we take calls on Friday afternoon past 4 p.m. or not? And by clearly defining some of those boundaries, that heavily lifted some burdens off our shoulders, because now, we don't take calls on the weekend. Now, at a certain time, we don't work. Now we know that X time is dedicated for us taking the kid to the park and playing and not having our cell phones with us. And so a combination of all those things really helped to alleviate some of the burdens and the feelings, and also allow us to be far more productive from an operational standpoint, to still service the people we want to serve, but without bending our own rules and building a machine that we're just not, happy to be a part of.
Definitely. Now, Nicholas, you mentioned pricing, right? That your prices have increased. You're very selective in terms of the types of clients that you work with. What pricing model are you using now, and how has that evolved over time?
Yeah. Oh, great question. So let's talk to the agency side first, because there's multiple different models and people can kind of understand a little bit. When we first started, we had an agency model that was a flat fee. And so, it would cost, let's just be fully transparent since we're on this call. It would cost, let's say, $4,000 a month to work with us on a fully managed kind of system. As we started to get amazing results and our client roster filled up and we realized that people wanted to continue to work with us, that went to $6,500 to $7,500 to $10,000 to $12,500. And it kept going, and we basically stopped it at $12,500 to say, okay, well, maybe this is not the best pricing model. And then we also decided that because of the types of clients that we like to work with now, most of these are high growth companies. And if we can come in and provide further greater growth for them, it's an upside for everybody. So we then transitioned our pricing model into a performance-based percentage of gross revenue that we were responsible for. So now the better we do for somebody, the more money they make and the more money we make. And now, rather than the $12,500 that we might have collected from a client, it's now like $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month, because everyone's winning. It's a performance driven type model. So that's where we are on the agency side of it. And then on the consultancy side of it, we have a couple of models within the consultancy side. Again, if I can have skin in the game, where I'm in a performance based model, a percentage of gross sales as attributed by the work together, that is what we lead with. And then if not, it's time blocks, if you will. So right now it's $20,000 for an 8-hour consulting block with me. And that can be divided into live or virtual. That can be divided into 1 6-hour block dedicated and then 2-hour follow-up blocks, or 8 1-hour blocks kind of spread out whenever someone needs it. But that's essentially where our pricing model is between our consultancy and our agency right now.
And what has been the impact? You mentioned, so you went from like $12,500 per month to something now potentially being worth $50,000 or $60,000 per month. It sounds like overall, without necessarily having to spend more time, just optimizing your approach to fees and really being able to provide your clients with results has increased your company's revenue significantly.
Exactly. And it's done in such a way where, again, it's not arbitrarily raising fees for the sake of raising them. It's designing a win-win scenario for everybody involved. So in this case, it actually works great for the client because they know that I've got skin in the game and I'm incentivized to do well. I benefit because I'm incentivized, and the better I do, the more I get paid, which is a great thing. And so it really creates this beautiful ecosystem of win-win and accountability, which I think is lacking oftentimes in the agency and the consulting world, where, hey, it's just pay me a fee and I'll take care of this. And if you don't get a result, well, too bad. It's your fault. Like in this case, there's true transparency and accountability that's above the board for everybody. And yes, it's grown our business from a revenue standpoint. It's created clients who want to be with us longer, and are far more happy because everybody's kind of winning from the structure.
And what do you look for? What's kind of the minimum criteria that a company needs to have in order to be a fit for working with you guys right now?
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much a criteria as much as any engagement starts with me performing a marketing audit of the business. So I take a quick look at what do they have in process, what is currently in place, and then frankly, based on doing that audit, if I feel that I could come in and exponentially get better results than they're currently getting, I will outline what those results are to them and how I would go about doing that. And then we would potentially engage. If I look at something and I say, you know what, based on what I see here, there's nothing I can do. Either they've tapped out, or their processes are broken in a way that I can't help, or they lied about their numbers, which happens oftentimes because I'll have a conversation with someone and say, hey, for us to get started, you know, I need to take a look at your numbers. And they say, yeah, we're doing X number of, revenue, and we have X number of clients. And then upon an audit, you see that that's not even close to the case. Mm-hmm. We're looking at, do they have processes in place that A, work, and B, can be improved by us helping them? Yeah. If the answer is yes to both, and of course this is not without saying they have a legitimate business and it's not in an industry that's hurting people or anything like that, then we'll most likely get involved with them.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great share, because the whole idea of client selection, right, and just being very clear around what do you need to do and what do you need to look for in order for it to be a win-win for both parties, so that you can really say no to a lot of opportunities and just be able to say yes to the right ones, is a very important one that I think not enough people really give thought to. So that was a really good share there.
And you know what? It's not easy. I just want to throw that in, because there are a lot of times, especially when you're like growing your business, where it's not easy to turn away business, where you might be able to help them out, and in the might is going to be a paycheck for doing so. But the long-term ramifications of that, it hurts. It's not worth taking on a client for a short-term small windfall, knowing that in the end your reputation could be burned in the process, or any one of those kind of negative things happen. So I would encourage people, as hard as it is, and I know because I go through it every day, we've literally given away and turned down millions and millions of dollars just because I knew we couldn't help them perfectly. We could have helped them a little bit, but we couldn't help them perfectly. And it hurts on the surface, but in the long term, it just works out much better that way.
Yeah, great share. All right, so we're gonna wind down here in just a little bit, but you published a book recently, Nicholas, called Give. I just want to know, why did you decide to do that? Your business is going well. I'm guessing you didn't need to publish a book to, things are happening. So why did you publish that book? What was the real goal behind that? And then secondly, what has been the impact of the book to your business?
Yeah, great question. And frankly, the reason I did it was because I was convinced that it was a good thing to do for my business. Someone told me, hey, every credible person is an author of a book. Mm-hmm. And I thought, seems reasonable to me. Let's go after this endeavor. And it was a long, unpleasant, pulling teeth, year-long process of my life. And I did it the easy way. What I mean by that, I had a great team around me who was curating content that I already had, and great editors and great teams who did most of the work. And yet I still felt like, I had a kidney stone that I was passing for the entire duration of the year. So I did it literally because someone told me it was a good thing to do and everybody needed it. Because I did it then, I said, well, let's try to make the most of it, and let's try and hit the Wall Street Journal bestsellers list, because at least then I could leverage the title, right? I could say, hey, well, I'm a Wall Street Journal bestseller. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we fell short of that goal. It was just the wrong week to release a book because some heavy hitters came out that week. And so it kind of rubbed salt in the wound, right? You spent all this time, money, energy, effort to write the book. You don't hit the list that was the only one that was important to you for writing the book. But hey, we have a book. And what I did notice on the positive side is that it's gotten into the hands of people who may have never gotten access to me or my work. I get photos every single day of people in Cambodia, in the villages of Cambodia. I don't even know how they got the bloody book. Reading the book. I've seen people in fitness gyms on their treadmill reading the book. I've seen people, cool stories of like someone was on a flight flying home reading the book and the person beside them says, "Hey, do you know Nicholas? I'm part of his Facebook group." And so from a financial business development standpoint, I think it's too early to tell. The book's only been out for a month or two and it's making its rounds and almost 10,000 books have been sold kind of total. Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for that, like one day the CMO of Google to say, "Hey, I read your book and we'd love to give you a, $3 million consulting deal." That hasn't happened. Hopefully it will, but who knows? So the ramifications so far and the benefits to it haven't really shown themselves, but the savings grace, if you will, is that people are reading it. They're saying they're loving it. People who may have never been able to afford one of our programs or get access to any one of our trainings or anything like that, have this book in hand, and it's benefiting some people's businesses. So that's been, the good side of it.
Good stuff. Well, Nicholas, I want to thank you very much for coming on and sharing here today. What's the best way for people to learn more about your work and to connect with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you for asking. I think that the easiest way, and, just because we just talked about it, is you could get a free copy of my book, Give, at givebook.info. You just cover the shipping and the handling, and we'll send that right out to you. And that's kind of an introductory to my world. If you like the book, it'll show you how you can come to our website at nicholaskusmich.com. It'll show you various different ways when you're ready that you could work with us. But I think that's the best and the most cost-effective way to get familiar with my work and to get some benefit from it without even having to invest much to do so.
Love it. Thanks again, Nicholas. A lot of fun, really great shares, lots of value. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Michael. The pleasure was all mine. Thank you.
Are you ready to take your consulting business to the next level? Learn more about the Accelerator Coaching Program at consultingsuccess.com.